Kakalosh, Boker Or, Masechet Bava Kamma daf Bava 76a. But we're going to start on 75b, just on the bottom, 2 lines from the bottom, where it says, Amar Mor. Mor says something new, and he says, Hen, the Edim Zomnim are going to come and they're going to pay Tashlume Kefel. So the Edim are going to be obligated paying Kefel, because since they went and they testified that he stole and they were found to be Edim Zomnim, they have to pay Kefel. Midikamodeh de Ganav. One second, but since they testified that the ganav was modeh, so then they only have to pay keren, right? Why do they have to come and they have to also pay the kefel? Only the keren, because again, if you're modeh b'knas, you're patur from the knas. So you're patur from the kefel, you only have to pay the keren. So Amar Rabbi Elazar Mishmed Rav, says Elazar in the name of Rav, right? He says, you're right. He says, the Tani, we learned in the Braita, tashlum de kefel, which means that Edim Zomnim are obligated only in the knas of the kefil itself, not in the keren. Meaning, since he came and he already said that he did steal, so he has to pay the keren. But since they were the ones that testified falsely, so they have to pay the kefil. Only the kefil, not double, but the double portion, meaning the extra portion. Okay, 2 dots. Okay, so this is where we're going to start right now. I'm Bava Kamma daf 76a on the top, the 2 dots, first line. Ganav ve'igdish ve'achar kach tavach u'machar. If a person steals and he makes it ekdesh, and then afterwards he slaughters and sells it, he has to pay tashlume kefel, and he doesn't pay tashlume arba v'chamisha. Amri, they said, bishlema, I understand that tvicha lo mechayev, that you're not going to be mechayev on the tvicha, dechi katavach de'ekdesh katavach ve'la demare katavach, because when he's doing the tvicha and the ekdesh, right? But not of the masters. Because what happened? He went and he stole it, but then he made it ekdesh. So when he made it ekdesh, and now he's going to come and slaughter it or sell it, it's not his. It belongs to ekdesh. Okay? Ela ekdesh lechayev, bari should be chayav tashlumer bava chamisha on the ekdesh. Mali machro le'ediot, mali machro le'mashamayim. What do I care if he sold it to a regular person or he sold it to Hashem? Meaning like this. What happened? This guy stole by stealing. What do you chayav? Principal and kefel and double. Okay. What about arba v'chamisha? If he slaughters it or sells it, so says the Gemara, what do I care who he sold it to? Do I care that he sold it to Ekdesh or he sold it to somebody else?
He wants to buy himself a
good name.
Yeah.
He's making it Ekdesh, but at the end of the day, he should also be arba v'chamisha just for making it Ekdesh. Yeah, just for making it ekdesh. Making it ekdesh, he should pay. So mali mechro le'ediot, mali mechro le'shemaim. What's the difference between selling it to Hashem or selling it to a regular person? So answers the Gemara, how many who is this? Rabbi Shimon here. So Rabbi Shimon. The amar kodshim shechayav b'achariyutam yishutu d'marei kaimeh. According to Shitat Rabbi Shimon, any type of a kodshim which you're obligated to pay back, they're still in your reshut. Meaning, if you have kodshim, but something happens to it, if it gets lost or stolen or whatever it is, and you have to pay it back, even though it belongs to Hashem, because it's kodshi, but it still belongs to you. It's kilu that you have the reshut over it. And therefore, he comes and he says, so because of that, the fact that you are chayav b'achrayut, it comes out that you're only going to be chayav a korban, and then you came and, you understand, and then you were makdish it zeh. So it comes out that according to Shitat Rabbi Shimon, right, at the end of the day, it's still your money. So therefore, because of that, you're not going to pay 4 and 5 because you didn't really sell it. You're still obligated. But if it got lost or stolen, you still have to pay for it. So you didn't really actually sell it. Meaning, even though you made it ekdesh, it's still yours. Yours in the fact that until you don't give it to the Shem, you have to pay it back. So says the Gemara, what happens is that since you're still obligated in achrayut, so therefore it's still in your possession. So says the Gemara, Hami de Seifa Rabbi Shimon have. So if you're going to tell me now that the Seifa is Rabbi Shimon, so it's mashma that the Reisha is not going to be Rabbi Shimon. So says the Gemara, again, remember, Shitat Rabbi Shimon is that as long as you're obligated to pay it back, it's yours. So if you never really sold it, Keilu you sold it, but you didn't really sell it, because something happens, you're still obligated to it. So what are we dealing with? The Kadashim Kalim. What does it mean, Kadashim Kalim? He says, Aliba Rabbi Yosef Galilei Damar Kadashim Kalim Mamon Baalim. Hu ubishute kaime. He says we're talking about Kadashim Kalim, and we're going in the Shita of Rabbi Yosef Galilei, that he says Kadashim Kalim is considered Mamon Baalim. and ubishute kalim, therefore it's yours, which means like this. There's going to be a difference between koshek kadashim and kadashim kalim. Kadashim kalim are like a shlamim, like all the, so that is yours. That's shitat Rabbi Yosef. According to shitat Rabbi Yosef Gilileh, kadashim kalim are mamon baalim, they belong to the owner. So if they belong to the owner, so therefore even though you made it ekdesh, it doesn't matter. Hey, it still belongs to you. Aval, however, though, which one?
This is where it's called.
Yes, kadeshe kalim. Yes, there's many other differences also. Where do you do the shchita? Many other differences as well. But that's just some of the differences. Aval, however, though, kache kadashim. If it's kache kadashim, what is halacha? You should pay tashlim arba v'chamisha. So the Tana Deisha, from the fact that it says in the Reisha, ganav v'tavach v'achar kach hikdish, that if you stole and you slaughtered it and afterwards you made it ekdesh, you're going to pay tashlim arba v'chamisha. So liflog blitzne b'dida. Why don't we just learn it in itself? Right? That you're going to be tavach the ganav right after you already made it ekdesh, and therefore that's what's going to happen. But what are these words? And he says bekadashim kalim, only in the case of kadashim kalim. But in koche kadashim, you should pay tashumei arba v'chamisha. You should pay arba v'chamisha then. So says the Gemara, you're right. Elalo shna, there's no difference in kadashim 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 kalim. Ukakash lecha. So now when you're going to ask, what is the difference whether you sold it to Hashem or you sold it to somebody else? When you sell it to a normal person, now it belongs to somebody else. When you are selling it to Hashem, at the beginning it's the Torah de Reuven, and now it's still the Torah de Reuven, which means it's still going to be your shor, because through the Akdasha, right, that's what we're saying, through the making it in the Ekdesh, it's not mitbatel legamre, because it still belongs to you, but it's your korban. Meaning, even though you made it now a korban, whose korban is it? It's still yours. Fine, your magdish is there for a korban, but it's still your korban. So therefore, it's still yours. When you come and you sold it to somebody else, it now belongs to somebody else. When you come and you take something and you make it a ekdesh to Hashem and it's going to bring it as a korban, that's still your korban. You're right, it's becoming a korban. Beforehand, you were going to use it to plow. Now it's becoming a korban, but it's still your korban. So because of that, he comes and he says it's going to be two different halachot. Okay? 2 dots. Okay, with me? Okay. Rabbi Shimon Omer. Rabbi Shimon comes and he says, okay, Amri, they said, Nehi Desavar Rabbi Shimon, I understand that according to Rabbi Shimon, he's going to come and he's going to say, Mali mechrol idiot, Mali mechrol shamayim. Doesn't matter, what do I care whether you sold it to a idiot or to shamayim? Ibcha mibayle. Should be the exact opposite. Why? Kadashim shechayav b'achriyutan patur. Kadashim that you're going to be chayav, right, in the achrayut, you're going to be patur. Takati lo nafet mirshuteh, because you didn't take it out of its reshut yet. Kadashim she'eno chayav achriyutan, the kadashim that you do not take it, meaning that you're not obligated to pay it back, you should be chayav to ma'apliv reshuteh, because it came out of your reshut. Which means, what happens if something happens to it, and you're not obligated? So it means it's not in your reshut anymore. What's the proof, right? Like what the doctor said before. Imagine right now, like the Amazon, whatever it is, they make the delivery. Once they make the delivery to your house, and then now somebody else comes and steals it, it's not a problem. Their problem is if it was stolen from the guy itself that did the delivery. That's something else. But if they delivered it, and they have a picture, and now all of a sudden in midair, somebody comes in the middle of the night, boom, and he takes it. That's not their problem. Once they made the delivery, and everything was done properly, come on. You're right, if the delivery guy stole it, it's something different. But right now, they did everything properly. So says the Gemara, the same thing. If right now they came and now he's not chayav and achrayut, which means that he doesn't have to pay it back if it gets lost or stolen, so it's not in his property anymore. That's it, he's already done. So Amri, they said, Rabbi Shimon aminta achritekai. Really, be'emet, Rabbi Shimon is going on something else. This is what it means to say. Ena gonev achara ganav meshalem tashumei arba v'chamisha. The gonev achara ganav is not going to be obligated to pay arba v'chamisha. V'chen gonev ekdesh mibet baalim, or if somebody is going to be stealing ekdesh from the house of the baalim, is going to be patur. My time out, what's the reasoning? V'gunav mibet haish v'lo mibet ha'ekdesh. It says that you're going to be stolen from the house of the person and not from the house of the ekdesh. Rabbi Shimon says, kadashim shechayav achriyutan. When we're talking about kadashim that you're going to be obligated in achrayut, chayav, you're going to be obligated. My tama, what's the reasoning? Karina beb, as we call it, v'gunav mi bet ha'ish. She'eno chayav achriyutan. If it's not going to be chayav achriyutan, you're going to be patur, because we're not going to call it v'gunav mi bet ha'ish. So therefore, it comes out that it's not going to be considered inside of it. Okay? So michti. So let us see. Shamina le Rabbi Shimon, right? He comes and he says, we heard for Rabbi Shimon, damar shchita shena ruya lashma shchita. he says that shchita, which is not fitting, is not considered a shchita. So kadashim nami, also kadashim, shchita shenoriyahi. If you do kochim, kochim is shchita shenoriya. Why? Because basically, if you're going to do it outside of the Hazara, it's pasul and it's asul. So if so, why is it that Rabbi Shimon is telling you have to pay Bava Kamma if you stole kochim, right, from the house of the owners and you slaughtered it? Doesn't make sense. It becomes pasul. It's not ruya. If you do shchita, the shchita has to be fitting. If the shchita is not fitting, so you shouldn't be chayav. So why are you chayav? So Kiyata Rav Dimi, when Rav Dimi came, he said in the name of Yochanan, "Beshochet tmimim bibifnim l'shem baalim." No, you did shchita, right, on a behema of kochim, right, which was tmimah, right, which means that it was kosher, and you did it inside, but you did it for the baalim. So therefore, if I'm going to ask you a question, was the shchita a proper shchita? What is the answer? Yes. The shchita, there was no problem with the shchita. Yeah, there was no problem with the shchita. So says the Gemara, "Vare chazra keren lebaalim." Says 1 second, but you have the keren, right, which belongs to baalim. What does that mean? He says they actually accepted it upon themselves, the keren. So Amar Rabbi Yitzchak bar Rabbi nishpach adam, the blood was spilled, and therefore there was no kapara. Meaning like this: you did the shchita on inside. Now the truth is nobody asked you to do it. You did it, but you did it for the owners. So you're going to say, okay, fine, but at least, okay, so at least you benefited the owners. The answer is no, you didn't even benefit the owner. You know why? The blood spilled. So the blood spilled, there was no kapara for the owners. So that means basically you did nothing, right? You did it for the owners, but the owners didn't benefit from it. First of all, you took the regular animal and you did the shchita on its side and they didn't never ask you to. Number two, the blood was spilled, so therefore they didn't even benefit from the kapara. Right? So another answer, he says, name of Yochanan, you did shchita on the inside, not for the owners. So therefore, since you didn't do it for the owners, the korban is kasher, but it didn't help the baalim. So therefore, since it's kasher to do with eating, right, but it's not mechaper, so therefore that's why he comes and he says that the baalim are still chayav achayutam, and therefore they have to bring another korban anyway. So therefore, but it's a shchita ruya. So since it's a shchita ruya, he still has to pay for it, and he has to pay Bava Kamma. He has to pay Bava Kamma because the shchita is ruya, right? But he's not going to get off the hook for nothing because the baalim didn't benefit from it. The baalim still have to bring another korban. Okay. Next, Ein Vav Mubet, Resh Lakish, and according to Resh Lakish, he comes and he says, "Beshochet ba'alei mumin bachutz." We're talking about that they did shchita to the ba'alei mumin on the outside. What does it mean on the outside? You remember, when do you have to do the shchita? You have to do shchita on the inside of the Hazara. If you do shchita on the outside of the Hazara, it didn't help. So when you come and you were doing shchita on a balmum, which anyway a balmum cannot be brought, right? So therefore, since it's a balmum, anyway it couldn't be brought as a korban. So therefore, the shchita on the outside is mutar, therefore. So it is a shchita ruya. It's a shchita ruya because anyway you weren't allowed to do it inside. It's like chulin? It's like chulin, because a balmum cannot be brought as a korban. So therefore, you had to do it on the outside. So when you did it on the outside, it's called the shchita ruya. So you stole an animal, you went and you did the slaughtering, and you did it on the outside. Yeah, but it's still a shchita ruya. So ask the Gemara, Taibe Rabbi Elazar. Rabbi Elazar comes and he asks the following question. According to Rabbi Yochanan, that he says that shchita is materet, that shchita is going to be permit. Valo zrika materet. He says it's not the shchita, it's the zrika, meaning the sprinkling of the blood. That's what actually comes and permits for eating. Meaning like this: when you do shchita by a korban, are you allowed to eat it now? No. You first have to sprinkle the blood. And after you do the zrikat adam, now you're allowed to eat it. Meaning before the zrikat adam, you're not allowed to eat it. You did shchita, it doesn't matter. Because it's the zrikat adam which is going to permit. So he says, but according to Resh Lakish, shchita materet, he says, it's not true. Valo peduya materet. It's not only the shchita, right? You need the redemption also. Okay? So ishtanitate had Rabbi Shimon, right? It was actually, that means he didn't know that of Rabbi Shimon, that kol omer lizrok is rugdami. According to Rabbi Shimon, anything that you're going to sprinkle is already considered sprinkled. And anything which is omer livdot, that you're going to redeem it, is already considered pidyon. So therefore, just like if it's going to be considered redeemed, it's like it's already redeemed. If it's going to be sprinkled, it's not going to be sprinkled. That's why he comes and he says, so therefore, even though it wasn't done, so therefore, according to Shittat Rabbi Shimon, he says, now we actually understand why you're going to be chayav. Because it is a shchita ruya. Because the second that the blood is already accepted and it's fitting to sprinkle, even if you didn't sprinkle it, it's already permitted. It's already kilu because it's already that you sprinkled it. That's the shita of Rabbi Shimon. So says the Gemara, how do we know this? He says Rabbi Shimon says, Yesh notar, there's notar. Everyone knows what notar is? The leftovers, right? The leftovers, meaning that you have to have it in a certain amount of time, and then you have the leftovers. So when you have this basar kodesh or things that was after the time, it becomes prohibited bana. You're not allowed to benefit from it. Shehu metameh tumat ochlin, it becomes tameh tumat ochlin. The yesh notar, but there's other notar, which is not metameh tumat ochlin. Ketzad, how is this? Lifnei zrika, before the sprinkling of the blood, is not metameh tumat ochlin, and therefore it's not ochel. It's not food. But after you sprinkle the blood, now it's metameh tumat ochlin. The kaimalan we paskin. What does it mean now? What does it mean now? Lifnei zrika. Before zrika, it says kodem shenira li zrika. He says it's before that it appears to be sprinkling. So he says lachar zrika, after sprinkling. Lachar shenira li zrika. It's after that it appears to be sprinkling. Kodem shenira li zrika lan mahi. So what does it mean then before, right, that it appears to be sprinkling? Because you do not have time, right, in order to come and in order to sprinkle it. The shachte that you did shechita close to the shkiata chama. And therefore, it's not going to be metameh tumat ochlin. But if it's after shenira li zrika lan, after that you could have already done the zrika, that means you could have had time during the day to sprinkle it, metameh tumat ochlin. It is going to be metameh tumat ochlin. So you see from here, that anytime that you could do the zrika, it's basically this. You have to do the zrika until shkia. So if you had the time to do it beforehand, it's going to be metameh tumat ochlin. You didn't do it, it doesn't matter. Because either you did do it or because you had the time to do it. Right? But if you did not have the time to do it, it was mamash by the shkia, you did the shchita. So you could, so there's not metameh tumat ochlin. It's okay. It's not metameh tumat ochlin. Why? Because you didn't have the time to do it. Okay, and the same halacha would apply to kol omer livdot ke padui dami. That anything which is going to be redeemed is considered already redeemed from the beginning. The Tanya was learned in a Braita. Rabbi Shimon says, oh wow, Ein Zan Amud Aleph. Yeah, para metameh tumat ochlin. A para, right? We're talking about the para duma, is mitameh tumat ochlin. Hoil va'ita la shata kosher, because it had a time which was shata kosher, and therefore since it had shata kosher, that's why you're able to actually come. Meaning it had a time that it was kosher, so therefore it was actually going to hell.